Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And in the aftermath of the most destructive war ever witnessed by mankind, Fallout 4 introduces players to an insanely colorful and diverse cast of characters. From radioactive traveling merchants to mutated men who have actually been around since the bombs fell, it seems any direction you look in Fallout 4 will lead you to another intriguing personality. But in a world this hectic, you better believe people aren't always going to be upfront about themselves with everybody. And many of the game's characters are hiding some very big secrets that they'd rather not any person find out. However, going against such wishes and discovering their dirty laundry, so to speak, is quite a fun and interesting process. So, that's exactly what we're gonna do, as we dive into 5 more characters who are hiding something in Fallout 4. Now, before we dive into this episode, quick note. Our last installment of this series, uploaded in 2018, focused on darker, more sinister secrets held by the game's characters. This one will be a bit more open-ended, allowing for less devious, but still equally fun to know hidden facts. Anyway, without further ado, as I like to say, let's do further. Starting off, Eleanor is a lonely elderly woman who can be found spending the remainder of her days at an isolated campsite just a ways north of Fairline Hills Estates. At first, she doesn't seem like anyone special, boasting pretty much no unique dialogue and only functioning as a low-tier general goods merchant when interacted with. But should the sole survivor decide to take a quick peek into her trailer and snoop around, you'll find an odd note on her table next to a pen. And it reads the following, quote, "Look, Bosco, I ain't going back. I'm over 60 for God's sake. Leave me alone. I've done well enough over the years, saved my caps. I found a nice little place in the woods south of the city. I'm gonna settle in and enjoy my retirement. Not many can say that these days." End quote. Bosco ain't going back? What's this old woman talking about? Well, the evidence would suggest that this 60-something elder used to be a raider, as Bosco is the name of the leader of a gang of raiders inhabiting the ruins of DB Technical High School. And many of you guys viewing this video have probably already gotten the chance to face off against him in order to clear out the location. By the time that we get to meet Bosco, some of his personally written terminal entries reveal that he was already probably on the brink of death. Having been bit by an infected dog recently, his mental state was already in the midst of rapid deterioration. And he had even begun to see himself as part animal shortly before we got to put him down. It's likely that prior to Bosco's sickness, he was trying to convince Eleanor, who must have had some considerable past experience, to join his gang, but she wasn't having any of it. The old lady just wants to enjoy her retirement in peace, and likely forget about whatever dark past she may have. And judging by the fact that many players will end up wiping out Bosco's gang, I'd say that this little old lady and former cutthroat made the appropriate decision. Next on our list, Liam Bennett is a scientist working for the Institute. At first, he doesn't seem to do very much to stand out from the rest of his colleagues. However, if you speak to him, or just ask about Liam, you'll learn that he's actually a bit of a wonder kid, being among the Institute's youngest researchers ever. Additionally, if you progress far enough within the Railroad or Institute's own quest line, you'll also learn that he's secretly an informant for the Railroad, going by the codename Patriot. However, that's not necessarily the secret we're interested in exposing in today's video. No, instead we have something that's admittedly less significant, but definitely not any less entertaining. You see, within the Institute's infirmary, we can find a terminal, which contains an entry written by a doctor describing his various patients and their conditions. Among them will be a L. Bennett, and his injury will be described as a, quote, wrist sprain. And the terminal will state that Liam refused to elaborate upon how he sustained the injury beyond claiming that he received it while using a terminal. While somewhat confused, the doctor simply gave him a sling and sent him on his way. Considering the major emphasis the game places on Liam's young age, I can already feel some of you shaking your heads. And I think most players can take a pretty good guess on how Liam actually injured his wrists, and why he's embarrassed to go into further detail. I'd explain a bit further, but I'd rather this video remain monetized and me still be able to afford food. So, I'm just gonna let you make of this whatever you will. Coming in at number 3, Abbott is among Diamond City's oldest residents. Looking to be somewhere between his 50s and 60s, he's certainly seen a lot, and now spends his days maintaining his town's massive walls, which he calls the Great Green. Lately, Abbott's been busy repainting the structure, keeping it nice and pristine looking, but has ran all out of green paint, and will offer the player a brief quest to go get him some more. Funnily enough, you can instead just find a different color and use that, resulting in Diamond City's Great Green becoming yellow or purple, much to the old fellow's frustration. Alas, beneath Abbott's lovable, community-oriented persona, he seems to be hiding something big from many of his fellow residents. If the player decides to pick the lock and break into Abbott's home, which is located just northeast of the scoreboard, sitting on the bottom shelf of a metal rack, you can find a holotape titled "Join the Railroad." When played, it features the railroad's leader, Desdemona, calling for the citizens of the Commonwealth to wake up and recognize that synths are not their enemy. It's pretty short, so I'll just play the whole thing for you now.
Wake up, Commonwealth. Synths are not your enemy. They are victims in this war as well. True, they were created by the Institute, but they were created as slaves. Thinking, feeling, and dreaming beings, utterly oppressed by their tyrannical masters. So join with us in fighting the real enemy, the Institute. Join the Railroad. When you're ready for that next step, don't worry, we'll find you.
Now, Abbott's home isn't the only place a copy of this tape spawns in. It can also be found in the dwellings and/or inventories of quite a few Railroad members, sympathizers, and escaped synths. But nonetheless, its presence here, next to Abbott's bed, implies the man at very least has some connection to the faction. But that's not where this character's shadiness ends. Meet Crocker. When he's not hunting fairy godparents, he's Diamond City's go-to plastic surgeon doctor. And inside his home, on a personal terminal, he has a document that lists and details all of his recent surgeries and appointments with clients. And one of the entries in this document is for an operation performed on none other than Abbott. In his writing, Crocker goes on to claim that he removed a nasty scar across Abbott's abdomen, and that Abbott himself refused to explain how he got the scar in the first place. Considering Abbott's relatively peaceful, normal life, it doesn't take a Sherlock Holmes to figure that this secret cosmetic surgery and Abbott's ties to the railroad are almost certainly connected in some way. Though there are still a number of unanswered questions. Could Abbott be an undercover agent for the organization, and that scar the result of a battle he was in? Or, we know that cosmetic surgery is a popular choice for escaped synths looking to evade the eyes of the Institute. Maybe Abbott's a bot on the run with the help of Desdemona and friends. Whatever this curious elderly man's true backstory could be is anyone's guess. However, one thing's for sure. He and the railroad definitely have something going on. For 4th spot, Zeke is the founding member and head honcho of the Atom Cats, a minor faction in Fallout 4 with a passion for modding their power armor and wearing leather jackets. Based out of their garage north of Quincy, the Atom Cats act as a sort of parody of 1950s greasers. Just instead of bikes, they have armor, and instead of 1950s America, they happen to live in an apocalyptic wasteland. So, being the leader, I like to think of Zeke as a neat little cross between Rick Grimes and the Fonz. Anyway, what you may not have known about this cool cat, and something he certainly never brings up, is that Zeke's evidently been to Far Harbor before. Yes, that Far Harbor. As when you've got the DLC installed, just off the island's coast is a boat right about where I'm at on the map. And in it, a container can be found, labeled Zeke's Safe. Inside of it won't be randomized loot, but instead, among other things, a greaser jacket and jeans, some sunglasses, and burnt comics. So this definitely belonged to the Zeke we all know and love. Now for the real questions. What's this safe doing so far from the Commonwealth, and why would Zeke have been over here in the first place? Looking for mods, maybe? We know Zeke grew up in Diamond City, so he's certainly not a Far Harbor native. Unfortunately, this mystery's sort of a dead end. I suppose much like the origins of our good friend Abbott, we may never know for sure what secret Zeke's been hiding on the island. And finally, last on our list, we return to Diamond City. Here, serving the patio section patrons of the Colonial Tap House, a unique Mr. Handy robot named Willingham can be encountered. The droid maintains a snobbish, rude personality, openly stating a preference to only cater to the town's upper-class residents, but begrudgingly doing business with everyone else due to the way he was programmed. Before trading with you, this bot will almost always say something insulting. Overall, his stuck-up nature makes Willingham an easy character to initially dislike. However, what you may find surprising is that his whole attitude may just be an act. If the player approaches Willingham with Piper as an active companion, there's an ever so small chance that the two characters may organically start up a conversation, in which Willingham immediately fills Piper in on all of the gossip surrounding Diamond City's richest residents.
Well, look who it is! Don't you have a boot to polish somewhere?
Piper, I told you never to show your face here again.
Fine! I guess I'll go do that. Hey, Welly, what you got for me?
Nothing new, darling. Though there's a rumor Ann Cartman is offering good money for other people's hair.
Thanks, Welly.
He claims to love doing business with them and identify with them, but Willingham has no trouble selling out and revealing the dirty laundry of what he claims to be his preferred clientele. Piper is of course the editor-in-chief of Public Occurrences, Diamond City's best and only newspaper. So, Willingham knows what he's doing here. He's essentially little more than a secret spy for the media, who doesn't really believe in what he's saying. If anything, the game suggests that the only reason he maintains this attitude is that Diamond City's wealthier residents feel more comfortable around him. The reality is that this robot is an undercover journalist. Pretty neat. We'll just have to be a bit careful from now on, not to say too much to this metallic man. And with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 characters who are hiding some big secrets in Fallout 4. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these NPCs surprised you the most? And which characters have some skeletons in their closets that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.